All right, everyone, welcome to Jasper's History Facts. Da-da-da. Well, today is January the 2nd, and on this day, in 1905, the Russian forces would surrender Port Arthur to the Japanese forces during the Russo-Japanese War. So for those that are unknowing, the Russo-Japanese War is a war between Russia and the Japanese. I know, very complicated. I'm sure nobody could have figured that one out. But this is kind of a war of Russia trying to show to the people, really, is, hey, look how strong we are. Look, Russia's very strong, and mostly because of a few things that have been going on internally, and so the people weren't necessarily as in jive with the Russian Empire. However, the Russians chose probably the worst target if they were going to go to war that they could have, because many of these European nations, they're not going to fight because they're all kind of industrialized at the same strength, so it wasn't seen as an easy victory. Where people in the East, in Asia more specifically, and certain parts of the Americas, were seen as much easier because they were not as industrialized, or as they weren't a European nation, so they weren't as strong. That's kind of the idea. And Japan is seen as one of these nations. They're seen as a very, it's going to be weak, they're an Asian nation. However, out of probably all of the Asian nations, Japan had took to industrialization and took to European guns very, very well. Japan trained very hard, and they industrialized very, very well. And they're probably the most, I would say at this point, industrialized Asian nation. And they crush the Russians. The Russians, first off, have to go all the way across the world with their fleets, their navy. And then when they do end up going across, they lose that navy in like no time to some very simple battles. And then on the ground fighting, the Russians, they put up a better defense, but not much. They still get kind of destroyed by the Japanese. And it just is another humiliating thing on the Russian crown, basically, at this point. It kind of is, you can see why they would go to war during World War I, more so. The Tsar, his pride is very much hurt by this war. And so, hey, well, let's go to war in World War I over some comments that someone maybe said, and would lead to the Tsar going into the worst thing he could have done for himself or his people. And I know.